there, and welcome to another edition of Metropole Webinars. My name is Ndiro Ganga, and today we convene here for a noble cause to discuss micro, small, and medium enterprises. The impact of COVID-19 is undeniable, but recovery is inevitable. How do we get ourselves there? Before we get into the conversation, a little bit of background. SMEs are a very critical component of the economy in this country. They comprise of 98% of all businesses, and that is according to the Central Bank of Kenya National Economic Survey. Now, on top of being 98% of the businesses in the country, SMEs contribute up to 30% of annual jobs, and that translates to about 14.9 million jobs in total. And in addition, SMEs contribute to about 3% to the GDP of this country. However, this was during the good days. COVID happened and it's disrupted everyone. Every single industry has been disrupted. Small, medium, and even big businesses have been disrupted. And what is the extent of the disruption in the SME sector? Now, according to the IMF, globally, it is estimated that many SMEs are going to fail, and the percentage point is 9%. If these businesses are not helped or resuscitated, they're going to fail. If 9% of businesses fail, then that means 3% of jobs in the private sector have been put at risk. Now remember, SMEs do not operate in a vacuum. They work hand in hand with other sectors. For example, the financial sector, from whom they borrow. According to the IMF, in the financial sector, the share of non-performing loans on bank balance sheets would increase by 11 percentage points. Ask any banker, they would tell you non-performing loans is nothing that they like to hear about. 11 percentage points is wanting. And that is why we must have this conversation today. Joining us to help us put these matters into context, Sammy Karanja. He is the CEO, Importers and Small Traders Association of Kenya, ISTA. Also joining us today is Margaret Kimani. She is the Senior Manager and Head of Women and Youth Banking at SBM Bank Kenya. Sammy and Margaret, thank you for making time today.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Great. Sammy, let's begin with you because...
Thank you for having us.
Great. Sammy, let's begin with you because you are in that sphere where you deal with SMEs and businesses every single day, and you might be in business yourself. We can talk about numbers, 9% of businesses closing down, but to what extent has the COVID-19 disruption hit MSMEs in this country? Just paint a visual picture.
Thank you for having me once again. And Importers and Small Traders Association of Kenya is an advocacy association, and actually we advocate for small, medium, micro, small, medium entrepreneurs. And so we have the statistics of what happens on the ground, and we call it uko mashinani, the grassroots. We talk on behalf of the mama mboga, the person who is in the micro category. And I can say that many times we underestimate what COVID-19 has done to the small, medium entrepreneurs and the micro. And one of the good things about Kenyans is that we are resilient. We have a way out of every situation that we are in. But COVID-19 really broke the backbone of small, medium entrepreneurs in the country, from Mama Mboga to the shopkeeper, to the Mkokoteni person, to the Buddha Buddha person, going all the way even to the importers like ourselves, who bring things from Dubai and from China to sell to the Mama Mboga or the Marimari, what we call in the hawking industry. And so it is a big blow to the small medium entrepreneurs, and unless we have mechanisms to cushion these small medium entrepreneurs who actually are the backbone of the economy, I think you're going to be in a very tight corner when it comes to the economic growth.
Margaret, let me bring you in at this point. From a financial point of view, he said we are underestimating the kind of impact that COVID has had. But what are some of the factors in the DNA and the dynamics of MSMEs that have left them so vulnerable to this kind of disruption and this magnitude?
Thank you for having me, and thanks for having also Samuel on board, because he speaks. He represents what is happening on the ground. And back to your question, I love what you've asked because it's a reality. But in my opinion, I feel that the reason, micro SMEs are under or misrepresented is because our Kenyan economy, for a long time, I know things are changing now, but for a long time, we've classified the SME, we've squeezed in the MSME under the SME category, which is very wrong. And I love what Samuel has said. The micro SMEs, the mama mbogas, they're actually the ones holding us. Personally, today I'm working from home. But you can imagine every single day I'm going for fresh produce at the mama mboga. Otherwise, it will force me to go to the supermarket, which I don't have time for. Locally, look at the guy who delivers your water and your little, those are the people holding our economy. And guess what? Just like us banks, they never shut down. The rest of the world, perhaps some businesses closed. Of course, the bigger companies, perhaps many companies closed. Other sectors fully shut down. But you can imagine. So clustering the MSME under the SME also hinders us as banks to actually make sure that we are actually catering for the MSMEs and not asking for ridiculous requirements that actually MSMEs might not actually have. Remember, there's a research that was done not too long ago, and I think even in January there was a report. MSMEs actually, as you know, most of them are actually the ones employing, providing jobs for this economy. Secondly, MSMEs actually their requirements can never be considered the same. Remember, let me also remind you, if you go to like our National Revenue Collection, KRA, you'll find that there's no special section, and I think this needs to happen like yesterday. There should be a special section that looks into the MSMEs. The other thing I would also want to mention is that MSMEs are actually, a lot of them fall in the informal sector, and I think Samuel, you can correct me on that. A lot of them fall under the informal sector. What you call self-employment. Some started just as a hobby, but they're making a lot of money. Actually, when you, as a bank, because actually our sector, the sector that I look up to, majority of those guys are MSMEs. And actually, we are very passionate because we are on the ground, we are walking the journey with them. And secondly, when you, for example, I'll give you an example. If a mama mboga comes to the bank, and then we give them the long list, without even listening to them. What have you done to that person? You've actually you've killed their business. Secondly, you've also, because that mama mboga, if you're not listening to them, if you're not going into the detail of actually asking them, tell me about your business. And for us, by the way, it's sad that COVID has also restricted our movements because we do have 52 branches in the country, which we passionately serve. We have customers from all manner of sectors, yeah? But you see, for us, we are very keen on visiting these customers. Yeah, of course, with COVID, it's been a bit tough, but we are constantly engaging customers. We want to know, like what he said, what did you say, Mali? These guys who bring the merchandise, because let's be honest, we're not manufacturing everything in Kenya, but I'm a big promoter of made in Kenya, buy Kenya, build Kenya. But let's be honest, we do not manufacture. Even some of the drugs, sadly, we consume come from out there. So when you do not promote this, when you do not support these MSMEs, actually you might not even have the SMEs themselves. And also, I feel that our society is very patriarchal, which is sad, and especially for the people that I take care of, the docket that I'm assigned by the bank to look after. Of course, as leaders, we cater for all customers, but my specific role in the women, you can imagine the women. I was talking to, every day in my job involves engaging with customers, supporting our branches, working with branches to, I might not be in Kisumu right now, but I should be able to support somebody locally, the SMEs there. But let me tell you, the women are hard hit by this coronavirus. The same way with and most of them, by the way, they are MSMEs. Mm-hmm. Youth is another angle. And by the way, when we start asking for collateral for from these customers, already you've killed the story. You've even, it's like, open this letter. It's like when you do not open a letter, basically. When you start asking for collateral as the first thing, already you've left out so many. So it calls for inclusion, it calls for policy, it calls for a lot of advocacy, which I'm very passionate about. It's like my personal calling, because like some of what he has said, these guys will not come every day to talk to Margaret, who heads the docket and who sits in the head office. But the advocacy is very important. You see, our regulators in some of these areas, they might not also be aware. Remember, they are not on the ground, like what Samuel and I are. It calls for a lot of advocacy. I thank God we have a startup bill. I think you're aware. I believe it's still in the work. But again, also inclusion. When we're making these policies,
Okay.
are we also including these guys? Yeah.
Okay, great. Samuel, I want to bring you into the conversation right now. And Margaret has mentioned some pertinent things. Most importantly, it's like banks do not understand the composition of who micro, small, and medium enterprises are, yet they're these products that you're being given. And this poses a risk to these businesses because they cannot borrow from banks, but also they're being hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the Kenya SME Support Center did a research and they said flows those directly affected by containment, for example, bars, restaurants, and even event suppliers, their cash run rate is 40% and can only last them a month. 30% can last 1 to 3 months within cash flows following declining sales in orders. One might think that these are just numbers, but what does it mean for micro, small, and medium enterprises to be having depreciating cash reserves, yet banks do not have products that can suit their needs?
And I think that's one of the biggest problems that you have in the country, because we misdiagnose the problem of small medium entrepreneurs. As Margaret has said, we do not have a definite definition of who a small medium micro entrepreneur is. We don't really know them, who they are. And what happens is that we define them based on what the World Bank has said about small medium entrepreneurs. And that is why the other day you saw the government issued money or gave money through different donors give money to the government to reach the small medium entrepreneurs and also cushion them in terms of the COVID. And one of the criteria that was given is that they are supposed to be at least to have employed about 100 people plus, and they are given bank guarantees. So when you talk about a bank guarantee, you are telling Mama Mboga of a bank guarantee. They don't know what a bank guarantee is. And so the people in that space are huge, and many times we do not understand the populace on that space, and they are huge. You find that you have rightly said that we have about 14 point something million SMEs. We are talking about 10 million SMEs who are in that space of micro. You see, when you talk about small and medium, are people who can be able to go to the bank, people who can be able to negotiate with their circles, people even who have a knowledge of coming together and having a chama and having a revolving fund from the Ministry of Trade. They have information there. But the micros don't have that information. And you find that dispensing that information from the government boardrooms, dispensing it to the small medium entrepreneurs in consumable bits has become a very big hindrance to the advancement of small medium entrepreneurs. And let's even go to the banking sector where Margaret is. You find that Mama Boga cannot come in and is not listened to by many banks because they are looking at a space whereby a person can be able to be banking maybe 4,000-5,000 shillings every day, which is not possible for them. And this has brought a lot of issues in terms of diagnosing the problem of small medium entrepreneurs. And now what has risen, and you remember the other day, the central bank was trying to regulate the mobile money platforms, whereby some people saw a space and they got into that space and they were issuing 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. And this was a lifeline for this micro because they can borrow 1,000 today in the morning and give back that money later in the evening because that's where they are at. And if we can be able to formalize that, what we are calling informal sector, we formalize it and make sure we have the right food data to know who is where, who is in this space, who is in the micro space, who is in the small, who is a small entrepreneur, who is a medium entrepreneur. And I remember the other day, I think last year we had an issue with the containers belonging to small medium entrepreneurs at the ICD. And I was spearheading that with a few of us, and we went to the president and we spoke to him about the cargo that has been held at the port of 1,000 containers belonging to small medium entrepreneurs. And KRA came and asked, then who are these small medium entrepreneurs? How can you be able to import? But you see, these are people who have sold cows. These are people who have sold chicken. These people have gotten money from their families, even a fundraising just to make sure you get one person who is going to be in business. And they get a few cartons, and they buy space in a container with what we call the CBMs. They buy space in a container, and they bring earrings worth 50,000 shillings from Dubai, and they sell at and they get maybe 80,000 shillings. They get a profit of 30,000 shillings, and this is a space whereby it has huge potential, but many times the government lacks that willingness to go the long way, because it's about hard work. It's about coming together with stakeholders and seeing to it that we bring enough data towards that. And so, for us to be able to cushion these small medium entrepreneurs and even assist them financially, we must be able to understand them so that we can be able to diagnose, this sector very well.
Margaret, with what Sami has said, I am a micro, either small or medium enterprise. I've walked through the doors of SBM. I've been affected by COVID-19, and I need financial assistance either to get my business up or to get my business going back to where it was. How would you help me? Not with the banker's knowledge, but now with the knowledge of who I am and the environment that I operate in as an MSME.
Very good question. And, before you even get to you've come to the bank. So what SBM, and let me also clarify, because a lot of people call us different things. So we are SBM, and it stands for State Bank of Mauritius. And we do have 52 branches. So what we did, remember, we do, and let me also break it so that you also understand, because Samuel has brought a very important point. So what we do have in the bank, as much as we know that challenge exists, as a bank, it's very interesting because we are so passionate. I'm proudly Kenyan, and we want to make, the reason State Bank of Mauritius left Mauritius, 50-year-old they've existed in Mauritius, they came to Kenya to make an impact. Not necessarily, of course, making money. We are a bank at the end of the day, but they left Mauritius, that's beautiful island of Mauritius, to come make a difference in Kenya. And by the way, Kenya is our African corridor, so it's a very big deal being in Kenya. So anyway, so what we've done as a bank, knowing that gap exists, and it's actually a big problem. Knowing as a bank, we know that 98% of our, the companies that exist in this country, believe it or not, we know the big boys fall into this 2%, but 98% are SMEs. So what we did as a bank, we made a very deliberate strategic move, and we divided our bank into 3 segments. So inside the bank, we have corporates, of course. We cannot ignore, it's a fact. We work with them. We work with everybody. Then we have SME, what Samuel had alluded to. Then we also have the micro SME. We call it consumer banking, which I fall under. Yeah. So under consumer banking, or what other banks call retail banking, we have now these informal SMEs. By the way, you'll find a lot of our customers are, just like yourself, you're a woman, you started this business, it's probably sometimes under your name. And then so for us, we had, let me just say long and short, we had SMEs banking with us before COVID, many of them, majority. And what we did as a bank, when first COVID hit, even before COVID hit, we've been doing something for micro SMEs. I think some of you who follow us, we do have 5 SME hubs, again, for these SMEs. These are small, and let me give you an example. In Corner House, I think you know Corner House, it's one of the hubs we have there. And what we do, we've been offering financial literacy, capacity building. And this is a very deliberate move. Actually, last night we were celebrating one of our customers. We've empowered, we've partnered with her, because we are not trainers. We are not capacity building, we are a bank at the end of the day. So we've empowered one of our own to be our knowledge partner to help these SMEs to walk the journey with them. So anyway, what we did, we were using these SME hubs every Thursday morning. And this is just one of the partners. We have many partners, including international partners that we work with. So we work with this partner to make sure that, for example, if a Margaret, and I started my own business, perhaps even you find some customers are even doing her side hustles. They are employed, but they do have, Kenyans are resilient, brilliant, innovative people. So we help these customers to make sure that they officiate their business. Some of them you'll find that they were not even keeping records, as simple as record keeping. I'm telling you, and especially for my segment, women and youth. Others, they might not have collateral, but guess what? We help them to come up with a profitable business. We walk the journey, we mentor, we coach, many things we do. But anyway, when COVID hit, what we did as a bank, the first thing we did, we knew obviously meeting customers. Of course, the end of March was crazy. I mean, it was scary. Let's just be honest. So what we did as a bank, we approached all our customers. Remember, we have staff in branches, we have staff, we have a contact center fully fledged at the head office, and we approached all our customers. And what were we doing? First, we also looked at our book to see which customers are in, let me give you a big sector that is hit, and I think you already know, the tourism sector, the hotel, the bars, and the bars, let's be honest, the bars were closed. We also bank churches were closed. You can imagine, I mean, us guys bank agribusiness, we bank the hotels, of course, industry, especially in the Pwani. So anyway, we approached all our customers. And what we wanted to do, as you know, as you're aware, the central bank also has been working tirelessly, and especially when the pandemic hit, there were certain moratoriums that we had. I'll give you an example. We lend to micro SMEs, and please let it go into the record. We do lend to micro SMEs. Like right now in April, I know we, even before COVID hit, we were trying to reopen our unsecured lending. Mm-hmm. But remember, our lending, for example, is attuned to a tune. It's capped to 5 million. But now what happened is that, for example, if Margaret Kimani shows up, she might not qualify for 5 million. But then we look to say, what can she, if she qualifies for 200,000, I'm happy. Us guys as a bank, we're happy, because guess what? That person, if you do not give them the lending they need, and also walk the journey. Remember, guys, sometimes when we mentor and coach our customers, and that's a beauty, that's the reason we are so passionate as a relationship bank. When you coach a customer, you might find, hi, this person has not been keeping record, but actually they don't need a loan. Those are the other things we find. And I'll tell you, this is a fact, and I'm sure Samuel, you can attest to that. Sometimes you just need somebody, you need a financial partner to walk the journey with you. And by the way, I'm an investment banker by training elsewhere. So I know for sure sometimes, even as a customer, it's very important that we help the customer walk the journey. Mm-hmm. Because it's not always, and I'm talking this to my fellow Kenyan bankers, it's not always about how much you can make out of a customer. It's about how much you're also impacting, because guess what? If you give a customer 5 million and you've not walked the journey, you've not analyzed, you've not helped them to also improve their record keeping, tomorrow they might default. Mm-hmm. Is that your pride? No. Personally, it's not my pride. Anyway, so what we did, we approached all the SMEs, corporates, and of course the micro SMEs. And what we were doing with the engagement is to tell them, by the way, are you aware that we have moratorium? We were given a window, I think you're aware, certain sectors or were hard hit, they have moratorium and customers were able to stop their loans. They were given a window where they do not have to pay their loans. Others, the big corporates, for instance, there are companies where we've been able to restructure, even individuals who we've been able to restructure. I think you're aware, even for your mortgage and your personal loan, there were certain things. In this call, I might not be able to list all of them, mm-hmm. But I can email to the people who are interested. People can also check in our branches. We've stayed open throughout, and there are certain factors, and I want to add here while I'm there. Other than loans, remember we have other facilities. I'll give you an example, which is my favorite. We have credit cards. Like right now, the biggest one, we partnered with Visa. Of course, they are our service providers. And we have a gold card, which is also a form of unsecured lending, whereby you're able to borrow. You could borrow. The limit does not have to be $1 million. I mean, the limit can be as low as 100. We look at your turnovers. Let me give you an example. A customer who has a turnover every month of 50,000, it's okay. They can still borrow. They can get that card. They'll swipe. Some of your importers, Samuel, I know some of your importers who bring goods, goods as worth as maybe 40,000. They can swipe this month. They don't have to even pay anything. By the next month, they'll have sold. I'll give you an example. I go to my big shout out to my hairdresser. Whenever I go there, I end up buying earrings, and I believe those are some of your members. They are aggressive men. In an hour, you can see 5 of them, and they make sales. So in a month's time, this customer will be able to repay. And guess what? That's still, without applying for a big loan, this is still something that keeps our economy, because our SMEs are the engine of this economy. So there are many things for us. Engagement is a big deal, and we are actually the ones who approach customers, as opposed to the other way around. Other banks, I'm sure, traditionally banks wait for you to go. But us guys are on the ground. We have salespeople, we have our relationship officer, portfolio managers, personal bankers everywhere, and we've been working throughout to make sure, because we're part of the economy, and we do not. By the way, we've been urging our customers not to shut down. Let's shut down with the last result.
Okay, Sammy, let me come to you. Margaret is very passionate, and probably SBM is passionate, as she said. However, I want to find out from you. You work with these people. You're one of these people. What is their experience during this COVID-19, going into financial institutions, seeking financial assistance, and as she has said, not necessarily loans, even just financial literacy from their bankers or their financial partners? How has the experience been?
Margaret is very passionate about SBM, and I think that's one of the things which I'm going to pay a courtesy call to her, because of what she has talked about, capacity building. And basically, the small medium entrepreneurs who I represent, a good number of them are not literate in terms of financing, even how to keep very simple records, cash in, cash out, very simple records without even complicating other books of accounts. And our experience with banking sector is that many of the banks that we go to and have visited and we have experience of is that a bank is a business that belongs to people. And so for them, even like what she has talked about restructuring, many of them do not restructure as per, like what the president also, had highlighted. And so you find that many SMEs fear going to the banks, because once you go to the bank, you're not going to be listened to. And if you have a loan, you are harassed, left, right, and center. You can't be able to run your life the way you're supposed to run your life. And that's why a good number of the traders, what they have done, they have now had their own, and I remember I see that in one of the platforms that usually have online, they usually have their own mechanism of survival, a revolving fund amongst themselves, whereby they don't need to have that money getting into the financial system. So you find that there are people who are doing a lot of huge chunks of pillow banking. And I met a group where somewhere, I met a group which were doing huge amounts of pillow banking, 7 million pillow banking, and it's a revolving fund. Why? Because if I want to clear my container and I go to a certain bank, that bank is going to ask me for collateral, it's going to ask me for my loan, it's going to ask me for my title deed, it's going to ask me for so many other things, which I really don't need that for now. What I need is I have a container, I have the documents which are actually authenticating that is my container. I have the BL, I have the bill of landing, I have my clearing agent, I have even the invoices of where I bought this cargo from, and just I want my container to be cleared. Or an example, I owe what we call the consolidators. The consolidators are the people who consolidate for us cargo in Dubai and China. And so per CBM, or what we call per cubic meter, maybe I need to pay 50,000 per cubic meter, and I have maybe 3 cubic meters. There's 3 CBMs. That's about 150,000 shillings. Why should I give my car logbook for 150,000 shillings? And I have something that is waiting, clients are actually waiting for me to transport those goods to Meru, from Nyamakema to Meru to Mombasa, and they are going to pay me, and in 2 or 3 or 5 days, I'm going to pay you back. And so you find that many banks are not relational, as Margaret is saying, and passionately talking about CBM. And I think that's a bank that is exceptional, from other banks which we have been able to have experience with. And one of the things which lastly to like to put forth is banks should also partner with structured associations like ours and other associations like what they have done with Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and become like proteges, get proteges, people who can be able to work with business people working with other business people. Because once you have business people mentoring other business people, and it's about partnership, you see that the Mama Mboga there is going to grow into an importer. as much as we want to buy Kenya, build Kenya, 30% of the things that you use here are imported. 30% of the marimari things, the small things, the earrings, the specs, all those things are imported. And so it's important for us to help the importers migrate from importing to local manufacturing, what we call cottage industries, which we can build it and we can really build our economy.
Now, briefly, before we go to the reforms, because we've sort of established where the problem is, we'll get to the reforms very briefly. But Carol, Margaret, I want to come to you. There have been certain interventions that the government has put in place to just try and ensure that we keep our micro, small, and medium enterprises afloat. For example, the Monetary Policy Committee reduced the cash reserve ratio from 5.25% to 4.25%, thus releasing an extra 35.2 billion additional liquidity availed to banks to directly support borrowers. What does this mean for sectors like the MSME?
Good question. I think the government has been trying, and I think COVID has actually sobered and accelerated some of the things that could have taken a few more years to, advocate for and lobby. And I'll tell you, I think it's a very good thing. It's a very good thing because it's a reality. And I think the government more and more, because I'm sure they get the reports about how many businesses have closed. And by the way, remember, these MSMEs, and why I'm very, very passionate, and I think many of us, it's like your God calling, it's like your call. Because at the end of the day, this stuck, if what Samuel has said, if his container is stuck in the Mombasa port with his MSMEs, who will pay for taxes? Yeah, obviously, bank has also, the government has been looking at the KRA collections, income tax collection, and they are seeing it going down south. So it was a no-brainer, and I think COVID also sobered many people up. Like we were saying at the beginning, many things have been disrupted, and I think there's a blessing in disguise.
But so what will the liquidity do for these businesses?
Yeah, the liquidity, what the liquidity will do is the more, as SMEs are able to get this money, it's able to spur a lot of growth and obviously also prevent job losses. I think you're aware how, I don't want to say the specific names, but certain hotels, they closed. If you think about who was working there, do people even think, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I should just go to parliament sometimes and just talk about these things to remind them every day. Because as we are busy talking about, sorry to say, BBI and all these other things, the first priority for us should be the MSMEs. Can we sort the MSMEs? Because let me tell you, hardware, there's hardware, like right now, many of us who frequent the airport, you've been seeing the roads are being done. The priority, if you ask me, in my opinion, should have been the MSME sector. We sort that out. And I'll give you a very simple example, because yes, we have liquidity, but we need these MSMEs. Let me give you another random example. It's like the money sitting here, yeah? The liquidity sitting here, but the MSMEs are sitting on the other end. Yeah, we need these two to actually come into the same room so that this money is lent to the MSMEs, because that's the bottom line. Yeah. And I was giving you the example of construction. So when these constructions are happening, sorry to say, I've not looked into the nitty-gritty, of who is getting awarded this contract. If we do not award those contracts to our, and no offense to the external, constructors, because I know sometimes we lack capacity. But if we do not award them to the small contractors, and actually I talked to the construction industry experts, just like Samuel, in that industry. One of the ways we can try to help the economy, the MSMEs, is if we could have small, job lots allocated to smaller, micro, MSMEs. Instead of you bringing a contractor from abroad, we were building the capacity over time, or even what Samuel has said, let's collaborate. And by the way, this is a big deal. We are so huge in collaboration. If contractors can collaborate, so that whatever skill I don't have, assume I'm an engineer, and Samuel is a plumbing company, and you are the quality assurance. if we were collaborating more, then you would find that our quality is obviously higher because they are global standards. And then we are able to get more contractors doing this job. Those are also MSMEs. Yeah. It's not just the mama mboga and the traders who trade small goods.
Okay.
So those are some of the ways, but we need money to be lent to these MSMEs.
Sami, let me bring you in. The Central Bank of Kenya waived charges for mobile transactions of up to 1,000 shillings. It looks like it's nothing, but this is a huge deal, particularly for small traders. Further, the government has reduced VAT tax from 16% to 14% and the reduction of the annual turnover tax from 3% to 1%. What does this mean for your members?
Well, I remember we were in the negotiating table with the Kenya Revenue Authority to lower the TOT, and that's why they actually came down, because we told them that they can't be able to pay that amount of money. We have an issue with the taxation policies in Kenya, and the taxation policies, what happens is that we really don't try, or the government does not try to increase what we call the tax base, whereby we get more people on board paying taxes and we reduce the weight on the people who are paying taxes. And we have so many people who are small, medium entrepreneurs who would not need to pay. Like, for example, when we talk about the turnover tax, we were telling them, why can't you simplify the turnover tax to very consumable information? Let me give an example. When talking about a turnover tax, you're saying the amount of money that you are getting at the end of the year, there's a percentage you're supposed to pay to the government. Now, the process of remitting that tax is it's not for the common mwananchi. It's a person who is supposed at least to have some, is supposed to be literate on computers or something of the sort. Now, we said this, we have like boda people. Boda people, you see the government, we actually gave a proposal to the government. One time we had a round table with the Commissioner General. We said we have about 600,000 registered boda operational. Give and take, it's about 1.4 million, but let's even go half of that, 600,000. The 600,000, these boda people, on average, some take 5,000, 3,000, 2,000, depending on how you are working. So on average, they take about 1,000 shillings, 1,000 shillings daily. That's the transaction that they transact each. That's on average. That's about 600 million Kenya shillings that the boda sector itself only is able to transact, 600 million shillings on a daily basis.
Okay.
What percentage of that amount of money goes to the government? You see? So even when you're talking about taxation, you're saying, even Mama Mboga, tell them even to pay 50 shillings on a daily basis. Let's have what we call data. And the government doesn't have data of who micro and small medium entrepreneurs are, because once we have that kind of data, we don't need to harass people to pay taxes. What you need to do is increase the tax base, whereby a Mama Mboga is going to be given 50, is going to be paying 50 shillings to the government in exchange of a decent designated area of operation.
Okay.
Instead of chasing Mama Mboga left, right, and center from the city center, due to Ngara, due to where, give them decent designated areas of operation and charge them 50 shillings on a daily basis. And when you look at that, we have huge numbers. The 10 million unregistered, unstructured SMEs can be able to foot the bill of this economy. Okay. And so when the government lowers this, it lowers a small percentage. That's a small percentage, because the people even who are paying the TOT, the people who are paying the VAT, are a very small margin of the small medium entrepreneurs.
Okay. Now, as we begin wrapping up our webinar today, Margaret, I want to bring you in reforms, which is something that we have to talk about, must talk about. Let's begin with access to finance. What forms of reforms do we need in terms of credit infrastructure? Let's begin with credit bureaus. We tried that, but what type of reforms do we need in that area? Collateral registries, credit guarantee, matching grants, and even collateral.
Good one. Yeah, and by the way, we need these reforms. They are overdue. They are way overdue. Let me start with what you've highlighted, access to finance. I think the reforms we need, I've not looked thoroughly at the startup bill, but I think that was a good move. I'm not sure I know the motion is still ongoing, but I would start with inclusion. And what do I mean by inclusion? You see right now, Samuel has talked about 10 million, give or take, unstructured as MSMEs. How are we involving them in the reforms? You see, because it's what we say, garbage in, garbage out. If we pass this reform, and without including them, Samuel can represent his people. I'm not sure, Samuel, how many of your, how large your organization is, or how many MSMEs are represented. But the more you involve, and you don't have, because I know from experience, we do a lot of engagement. If we were to say we involve every one of those MSME, it's very costly, let's just be honest. But if we had a way of engaging the CEOs and such organizations, then, and in all sectors. And by the way, remember we have devolution in Kenya. This is the other thing that I urge the government and us as fellow bankers. We always assume that the fact that I've gone to Nairobi, a few cities in Nairobi, and engaged with the MSMEs. How about the mashinani? He just spoke about Meru. Some of his traders get the goods, clear the goods quickly and ship them to Kisumu, Nyeri, or wherever. So how are we involving them in these reforms? Because let me tell you, if we do not involve these guys, we have county government. And even without county government, personally, I believe the private sector, we are very quick, in terms of implementing stuff.
Okay.
If we can engage them so that we get their input as we are doing reforms. Secondly, it's also being human, if I can just call it. Reforms can come, we can change. We actually urging the KRA to have a special desk which caters specifically for a micro SMEs. Even with or without the definition of micro SMEs in Kenya, they still can cater for that. And I think I don't want to repeat, Samuel has already alluded to that.
Okay.
A very simple example. Let me just finish. When we talk about, when we pay, what is it called? The parking, what is it called? The fees, the levy for parking your car in town. It's star something, I forget the code. Can the government, it's innovation also. We have to be innovative as a country. If you can allow the borders and the mamamboga at the end of the day to use their kabambe phone to start something and pay 50 bob, there you have it. They'll never default. By then they are very loyal. So inclusion is important. Innovation is important. We already have M-Pesa. So really, you don't need to go to iTax. I'm sorry. Like you can go, but those guys don't have time. They finish, they close at 10 or 10 p.m. before the curfew. They wake up at 5, So inclusion, innovation, and, there are many things I can talk about, but yeah, that is very important.
Great. As we come to a close, I want to bring in 2 questions here. I have 2 questions that have been sent here. One is directed to Sami, and it says, as a small trader who imports, what are some of the benefits of joining ISTA? 30 seconds, please.
Well, basically, ISTA is an advocacy platform, and what you are doing is that we have now metamorphosized to a bigger institution. We're calling ourselves MSME Alliance of Kenya. MSME Alliance of Kenya, we are getting money for small medium entrepreneurs from different stakeholders and from different well-wishers. So the moment you become a member of ISTA, you are able to have financial support. You also have information support, what we are calling the capacity building. And also we are able to work with you through other financial institutions to see to it that your business goes from one point to the other point. And actually, as I end, we are looking at making sure that importers are able to migrate from now importation, also move towards the cottage industries and also build what you call the local manufacturing, because that is huge in economic growth.
Thank you, Sami. Margaret, one here for you from Ms. Mutwiri, who says, as an MSME, when I walk through the doors of SBM Bank, what are some of the 5 things that I need to have put in order to make me attractive to getting financial assets?
Oh, good one. So one of the things when what's the name, Muturi? When she walks into the Muturi. Okay, so some of the things that she will help her obviously walk, to to walk the journey with us is that, if I can just summarize, for us, obviously, we are not your traditional, we are not your, what's the word, ordinary bankers. We do have a heart. We have every right. We actually very passionate about impacting transformation, growing with our customers. Let me tell you, our staff, and I think it starts from top to down.
Okay.
We believe that we do not exist without customers. So one of the biggest thing we do, other than all the traditional services bank offer, first we listen to customers, and that's mandatory for everywhere you walk into the bank. We are very innovative. Of course, we are a digital bank, so we do have digital solutions for customers. I believe you've seen us in most of the petrol stations. We do have agency banking countrywide, even in places where we do not have physical branches, brick and mortar. We also do have express banking. If you go to let me give you an example, Langata, Limuru Road.
Sorry, for her as an SME, what are some of the things as an SME personally that she needs to put in place so that when she comes to seek for a loan facility, she can get it? 30 seconds, please.
Okay, the things she need. No problem. Yeah, sure. So she need, if her business is not registered officially, we can walk the journey with her to make sure that we help her to register. But if she's registered, she can come with her usual documentation, and her record keeping. For example, she might not be our customer perhaps, but she can come with her past records. For example, from other banks, M-Pesa statements, we do accept those things. Even for customers who are not banking, they can come and just give us a plan of where they've been putting their money, because some might be borrowed funds. For us, we also encourage customers to make sure that they're paying their taxes. If they've not been doing that, we walk the journey with them. And we offer a lot of capacity building for customers, even non-customers. I give you an example of this partner we are working with. Please allow me to mention, other than customers who might not qualify for bank loans, I'm very excited. Yesterday, I was driving to this event last night, and this customer, we have a new partner who is offering, I think, Samuel, you mentioned, we do work with international players. We actually allow customers, we are encouraging customers to export. Look at the Kenyan avocado, it's like gold in other countries. We encourage customers to export, but we also encourage customers who might not meet the bank criteria, our bank criteria for SBM. We have a partner who is offering unsecured lending. I think you've seen the partnership, MasterCard and Women Work. And I'm here to confirm that many of our customers have qualified as small as 32,000. The smallest there is 32,000. They are able to repay within 3 months. And I think off the curve of this, webinar, we can actually talk with the likes of Samuel, so that we do a webinar for your MSME, so that they can take advantage. It's interest-free. That has never happened. It's actually an emergency fund. People good well-wishers came up with this fund, thanks to MasterCard or some of our partners, collaborators. And it's an emergency fund to make sure that businesses do not shut down.
Okay. Sami Karanja, CEO, Importers and Small Traders Association of Kenya. Margaret Kimani, Senior Manager and Head of Women and Youth Banking, SBM Bank. Thank you very much for making time. For you, the viewer, who has been taking time to follow this with us, and those who are following us live via the webinar, thank you very much for making time. It's been a great 45 minutes of having a conversation on what's the silver lining with regards to reforms, both at financial level, at SME level, and at government level, to ensure that we resuscitate SMEs and get them to going. One, understand who they are, their dynamics, their DNA, so that you can tailor-make solutions to fit their problems. Two, inclusivity. Not one card for all, diverse cards for everyone. Three, as an SME, register your business, pay your taxes, keep your records, and keep your eyes open. Look for opportunities. SBM Bank, join the likes of Sami, so you can have a community of like-minded thinkers. We need you just as much as the economy needs you. The youth of this country who are in schools are depending on SMEs like yours to create jobs and give them employment. By next year, we want to see the number of people employed by SMEs going up and contribution of SMEs to the GDP going back to 3%. Until then, we wish them all the best. My name is Ndiro Oganga. I'll see you again on the next episode of Metropole Webinars. Until then, enjoy the rest of your viewing.